All right, welcome back to the channel. We are back for our daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. After a couple days off, we're back here for these December 28th picks. Again, this college basketball Saturday. And before I get into the 5 best bets for today, I just have to make it very clear right now, Texas A&M football is banned. They get a lifetime ban. I'm never betting on Texas A&M football ever again. It was an absolutely disgusting performance I watched last night in the Las Vegas Bowl. Whoever is coaching that team needs to be fired. The offensive coordinator needs to be fired. The defensive coordinator needs to be fired. Their head coach needs to be fired. Marcel Reed, he can slide. The rest of the team, Texas A&M football is banned for eternity. That's one of the worst losses I've ever had. I'm serious. A&M blowing a 17-point lead to Jaden Maivia and USC with 30 transfers. It doesn't get worse than that. And folks, if you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. Again, we will have our NBA predictions that are daily as well on the channel in about an hour time. Go make sure to check out our NFL predictions that will be posted, or that were already posted earlier this week. That is linked in the description down below. We've got NFL games today featuring the Los Angeles Chargers and the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos and the Cincinnati Bengals, as well as the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Our college football predictions are linked in the description down below as well. Let's get in now to our first game of 5. Also, here's the full schedule for our college football bowl predictions. Okay, here's the first prediction of the day, or the first best bet of the day. We're taking Ole Miss on the road against Memphis. Now, okay, I can't trust in SEC football, can't do it. Hell, I just witnessed Oklahoma lose to Navy today in football, but we can trust the SEC in basketball, right? We get the Ole Miss Rebels going on the road to Memphis to take on the Memphis Tigers, and we like Ole Miss to pick up the victory. Guys, this is an 11-1 team this season. Their only losses to the Purdue Boilermakers in a game they lost by 2 points. This is an 11-1 team, sure. They haven't beaten the best teams this season. Their only big wins, I'd say, are out of the Mountain West in the Colorado State game, and I guess their Big 12 opponent earlier this year in Brigham Young as well. But we do like Ole Miss in the spot against a Memphis team that, prior to Christmas was struggling mightily. Again, this is still a 9-3 basketball team. I'm not going to say they're horrible. They are undefeated, actually. Have they played? Wait, they haven't played an American game yet. I'm tripping. The American doesn't get started until after the new year. But, they beat Clemson. They were able to beat Virginia both on the road, but then they lost to Mississippi State in their last game at home. They get Ole Miss coming into their place, into the Forum in Memphis, Tennessee for this basketball game, and I just think Ole Miss is the better team. Again, if Mississippi State's able to go into Memphis and win, I would expect Ole Miss to do the same exact thing. I get it. Again, Mississippi State's a better team than Ole Miss. I think, no, honestly, I'd take Ole Miss right now. I think. They're both really good, guys. The SEC in basketball, again, it's not like football where A&M's losing to 30 opt-outs USC, or Oklahoma's losing to a service academy. No, to a military institute. It's ridiculous. Basketball, we can actually trust in the Southeastern Conference to actually do something for us. Okay, so I feel fine in this basketball game taking Ole Miss on the road here. Again, this is an 11-1 Ole Miss team. This is a team that is led by Jalen Murray, Matthew Morrell, and obviously Sean Padula as well. Padula leading their team in points with 15 a game. For the Memphis Tigers, this is a 9-3 team so far this season. PJ Haggerty, again, is their guy. Obviously, Haggerty leads them in scoring with 22.5 a night, and he's led them in scoring pretty much every single game they've had in their last 8. Memphis' losses this season in Maui to Auburn, a loss to Arkansas State at home, which is really confusing, and then, of course, their last game at home against Mississippi State as well. Again, I think the SEC is able to get the best of Memphis in this game. Memphis is 1-2 against the SEC this season, winning their first game of the year against the Missouri Tigers, and obviously dropping one to the best team in college basketball right now. They're better than Tennessee, let's just be honest. Auburn is the best team right now in the country, and then obviously that Mississippi State game as well, losing by 13 points. I do think Ole Miss is able to get them in this basketball game. Again, there is not a guy like Haggerty on this Ole Miss team. Don't get it twisted. Again, there's not going to be one guy who's going to straight just take over the basketball game. But you had 25 in their last game for Ole Miss in the victory over Queens University with Padula. Murray puts up 18 in the win over Southern. Again, it's just going to be an all-around team effort that's going to get the Ole Miss Rebels the win in this game. But I do think they're able to go on the road and pick it up here. Again, the SEC in basketball, man, is just so good. Of course, you still got the only 3 undefeated teams right now in the top 25. We're talking about Florida, Oklahoma, and Tennessee's. Oklahoma's got to be ranked, right? I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're 12. Okay. They haven't beaten anybody. That's the thing. Oh, no, they beat Arizona. Okay. Yeah. Of course, you got Florida, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, obviously the 3 undefeated teams, but you still got Auburn, obviously, who's probably the number 1 team in the country. Ole Miss and Mississippi State are playing really well. Bama's always in the conversation as well. Kentucky, obviously, you can't overlook them, right? The SEC is just really good, and I do think Ole Miss is able to beat Memphis in this game. Again, if Mississippi State's able to do it, I'd expect Ole Miss to do the same exact thing. Again, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, I think, are right there with each other this year. I think they're very even. And obviously, again, Memphis is going to be good in the American Conference, but I do think Ole Miss is able to go on the road to Memphis, Tennessee, and take this one off of the Memphis Tigers. Let's move on to our next game. We go to Colorado, where we've got the New Mexico Lobos taking on Colorado State. Give me the Lobos in this game. So we are opening up Mountain West play officially now, obviously right now down the stretch here for the Mountain West. It's going to be all Mountain West games. They had New Mexico played a game earlier this year against San Jose State. They played Mexico State since USA, but they played San Jose State earlier on in the year. They're 1-0. Obviously they had the New Mexico State game where they looked really bad and lost. They beat West New Mexico and they beat VCU, but now again it is all Mountain West play for all of these teams. We're talking about New Mexico and we're talking about Colorado State. Colorado State's been too inconsistent for my liking. I get it, the game's at home here, and usually again we do like finding spots where we get home teams, but we are going to take the Lobos to go into Fort Collins and beat the Colorado State Rams. It's just Colorado State has been too inconsistent all year long. Guys, this team lost to Ole Miss, okay, by 15 points. They lose to Washington, who just lost to Seattle University. Again, the Washington Huskies are an embarrassment, okay? There's no other way to put it. Washington's an embarrassment. And you know what else is embarrassing? Losing to that cesspool known as UC Riverside. That's what Colorado State did. They lost to UCR earlier in the season. Again, let alone losing to Washington, if you're a half-serious basketball program, red flag. Losing to UC Riverside, whole nother thing. They bounced back, beat TCU, beat LMU. We'll get to LMU in a little bit. Lost to Colorado on the road, obviously. Losing a game against VCU. Winning back-to-back against Radford and Nevada. I get it. That's a big win. Conference play going to Reno and beating the Wolfpack. But I think the Lobos are going to be fine in this game. Okay, guys, New Mexico, with the exception of a couple bad games, have not been that horrible this season. Okay, the loss against Arizona State, it's going to happen, right? ASU's not horrible. The UCLA win, it's okay. UCLA, we're going to talk about UCLA in a couple minutes here. It is what it is. The St. John's loss, I don't really care. Going on the road, losing at St. John's, I'm willing to look past that. It's the overtime loss to New Mexico State. That's the one that is concerning. And it's not like just slightly concerning, it's really concerning. Obviously, this is a Lobos team led by Donovan Dent. He's going to be averaging 20 points going into this one. Obviously, you got Nelly Jr. Joseph, who is their big. He's their center that's averaging 13 points and averaging 10 rebounds a game as well. I don't mind the Lobos at all in this spot. I think they are going to go on the road and beat Colorado State. Simply put, I just think they're the better basketball team. Colorado State, again, just way too much of an inconsistent team all year long. The losses to UCR really stand out. The loss to Washington, the loss to VCU, Colorado. I don't really, again, the Colorado loss, it is what it is, but that was a game where we, I believe, I don't know for a fact we took Colorado, but I believe the odds were kind of close. I think it was like 3.5 we got for the Buffs, and they ended up winning that game by about 10 points. This is a Colorado State team that's led by Nick Clifford, who's averaging 16 points, Jalen Lakes averaging 14. I don't know. I think there are better teams out of the Mountain West this season. I do think ultimately New Mexico is a better team in the Mountain West this season. Obviously Utah State has to be considered one of the favorites. They have a really big game today, obviously. I'm not going to talk about Utah State versus San Diego State just because I think the game is too close to give you a best bet. Again, I'm trying to give you my 5 most confident picks on this entire slate. I don't feel all that confident going either side on Utah State versus San Diego State. If I had to pick, I don't mind Utah State at plus money. I know, again, they did lose to the first San Diego team they played this season. We're talking about UC San Diego, but that win on the road at Moraga against St. Mary's is huge. I don't know. I'm not going to go in depth about Utah State versus San Diego State. I think we're getting, 5.5 on Utah State. If I had to play anything, I would play Utah State. But I don't love it, okay? I don't love either side on that one. So I'm going to, again, officially stay away from that Utah State game. Instead, we're going to this game out the Mountain West today, and I do like New Mexico to go on the road to Fort Collins and beat Colorado State. I think Colorado is good. Colorado State's decent, but I just think New Mexico's the better squad. I don't think, the game being Colorado makes too much of a difference. We have seen decent teams go into Colorado and beat them this season. VCU went in there and beat them. UW, UCR. Give me New Mexico to go into Fort Collins and beat the Colorado State Rams. Next up, we move on to probably the biggest game of the day, I would say. The UCLA Bruins go to, or are basically at home in Inglewood taking on Gonzaga. So a neutral site game, but basically a home game for the UCLA Bruins. Inglewood is literally, I mean, a 20-minute drive from Los Angeles. Again, that's the home of the Rams, Chargers, and the Los Angeles Clippers, where they are playing in the Intuit Dome, exactly where the Clippers play and how they still call the Clippers, obviously, the Los Angeles Clippers. So practically a home game, basically a home game here for the UCLA Bruins. They're taking on Gonzaga. Gonzaga's the better basketball team. They just are. At the beginning of the season, going into the year, after watching Gonzaga dismantle Baylor, beat up on Arizona State, I quickly, in their win on the road at San Diego State as well, I said Gonzaga was the best team in the country. Obviously, again, I hadn't gotten a chance to watch all the SEC teams like Auburn, like Tennessee, and I'm willing to say, again, I don't think right now Gonzaga is the best team in the country, but I still think they're a top 10 team in the country, undeniably. I mean, again, they're ranked 14, but who are their losses? They got caught earlier in the year against West Virginia. Kentucky beat them. UConn beat them. I mean, again, UConn has played much better since leaving Maui, obviously, after not having to play 3 straight games in a row. The Huskies have been much better. Kentucky's Kentucky, and Zaga lost that game by 1 point. Zaga, since those back-to-back losses, rebounded against Nichols and Bucknell. Again, not the biggest teams, but they're taking on UCLA. Guys, the Bruins, I have not thought have been all that good this year. They've been able to beat Washington. Don't care. Washington's absolutely awful. Washington and Minnesota are trying their hardest, both of them, to fight for the honor of being the worst team in the Big Ten, because both Washington and Minnesota are absolutely horrible. UCLA was able to beat Oregon on the road in Eugene. That's the weird one, it is. But UCLA then barely got by Arizona. Not a bad one at all, right? They beat Prairie View A&M, and then we picked against them successfully, picking North Carolina to beat them, obviously, at Madison Square Garden. Again, UCLA is not a bad team. I just don't think they're as good as Gonzaga is. Again, I think Gonzaga, again, they're not the best team in the country, but they're certainly up there. Obviously, you got Graham Ike, who's averaging 15.5 points per game. You got Braden Huff. You got Khalif Battle. You got Ryan Nembhard, who, again, is not going to do the most scoring-wise, but obviously he's the guy that's going to be setting up everything for this Gonzaga offense. Again, Nembhard averaging 12 points a game, but also at the same time averaging 10 assists a game as well for the Bulldogs. And I do think Gonzaga is able to win this game, regardless of this game being in Los Angeles, hell, the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. I don't really think that affects the game too much. It's a neutral site game, sure. Again, if anything, the crowd will be on UCLA's side. But guys, the Intuit Dome's so huge, UCLA is not going to fill this thing out. I don't care that it's against Gonzaga. I think there's a very good chance the Bulldogs put up, kind of the same numbers that UCLA does in terms of attendance in this basketball game. I think, again, there's going to be a fair amount of people coming down from Spokane to this basketball game because UCLA just doesn't have the biggest fan base. And right now, again, it's December. I don't really think, again, it's not a real big college basketball time. Post-Christmas, I don't think UCLA is going to be attracting the biggest crowd for this game. Hell, I went to a UCLA basketball game about this time last year. Now, again, completely different circumstance. I watched them play Cal State Northridge at the Poly Pavilion, and what happened? Oh, UCLA lost to Cal State Northridge. But again, I just don't think, again, UCLA is going to be bringing in the biggest home court advantage going into this game, at least, in terms of a crowd. And I do think Zaga is able to get them here. Again, I don't think this game being played into it's going to make too much of a difference. Gonzaga simply puts just the better team. UCLA, again, just too much inconsistency, right? Surrounding a guy like Sebastian Max. Some nights Sebastian Max is great, sometimes he's not. Dylan Andrews, it is what it is. Sometimes you get great nights out of him, sometimes you don't. It's too much inconsistency out of UCLA for me personally. Again, yes, they are a team that's 10-2, and I'm talking about them like they're horrible. They're not, right? The only losses this season are New Mexico and North Carolina. Both were neutral site games. Again, technically this one against Gonzaga is neutral site as well. They have good wins, I get that, but think about their wins. Washington, Arizona, okay. Oregon, all right. That's it, really. Right, those are their 3 good wins, and then look at who Zaga's beat this season. And again, if you just want to compare these two teams on paper, I do think Gonzaga's the much better squad. I don't care UCLA has a better record. Gonzaga's the better team when you compare them and the UCLA Bruins, right? Again, you look at who Zaga's beat this season. They're able to beat Indiana. They're able to beat Baylor, Arizona State. They went to San Diego State and beat the Aztecs. I do think Gonzaga's the better team. Again, it's that play of course, it's what Ryan Nembhard does to set up this offense. Ike, Huff, Battle. I do like what Gonzaga is able to do in this game. I like them on the money line. I like them on the spread. -3.5 for the Gonzaga Bulldogs, taking care of business, technically here on the road in Inglewood against the UCLA Bruins. Let's go into our 4th best bet of the video. We go to kind of a random game. Obviously, we've been talking about some, West Coast basketball. Obviously, we talked about some big names earlier with Ole Miss and Memphis. We talked about the Mountain West with New Mexico and Colorado State, and obviously sticking on the West Coast of UCLA and Gonzaga. And trust me, we'll get back to the West Coast in just a few moments here. But let's take a trip over to Richmond, Virginia, for the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles taking on the Richmond Spiders. Yes, we are doing an A-Sun versus A-10 basketball game here, just because I think there's tremendous value for the Richmond Spiders in this game. Guys, I don't think Florida Gulf Coast is good at all, okay? This game is being played in Richmond, so it's a home game for the Spiders. They're getting 2.5 points. I think it's a great spot for Richmond. I think they are just the better team, straight up. I think they're better than Florida Gulf Coast. On top of that, again, FGCU has to go on the road to Richmond to play them. Both these teams, again, have not been the greatest this season, right? Richmond feels like a bottom of the A-10 type team. Florida Gulf Coast, again, the A-Sun's much worse than the A-10, but I do think Florida Gulf Coast, again, is one of these bottom teams in the A-Sun. I mean, they're better than, these very bad teams like West Georgia, Stetson, and Bellarmine, but I do think, again, FGCU is kind of in that lower level of the A-Sun this season. And we look at FGCU's wins this season. Yes, they have a win on the road at Florida Atlantic. That's the one outlier in all of this, okay? If you take away the Florida Atlantic win, let's look who they've lost to, right? UNC Greensboro on the road, TCU, St. Bonaventure, Drake. They beat Cal State Bakersfield, who's not very good. They were lost to Northeastern and beat FIU, beat FAU, but then lost back-to-back to Furman, LSU, and UNC Wilmington, and they're coming off a 17-point victory over Florida Tech. Now, Richmond actually played Florida Tech as well this season. They beat them by 10 points, and again, Richmond's record on paper, not great. Again, 5-7, their wins. Mount Olive, what is Mount Olive? I don't even want to look up what. Okay, let's do it. You know what? We haven't done this yet today. Let's look up what Mount Olive is. Okay, this is an empty screen. Okay, nice. Hold on 1 second. Boom. Let's look up what Mount Olive is, guys. I genuinely just don't know what this is. What this is. Mount Olive. University of Mount Olive. It's agricultural school. Okay. Oh, I just doxed myself. That's nice. Showed what city I'm in. That's what it is. Okay. This doesn't look okay. This looks like very. I'm not gonna lie. This looks really like Roman, like, I don't know what I was looking for here. This looks like Italy in the 1600s. This is the US? No, this definitely is not it. Mount of Olives. Oh, this is Israel. Okay, that's why. Okay, this is the rabbit hole we go down sometimes, doing college basketball predictions. Our best bets. Anyways, let's go back to this, guys. Oh, not this game. We've got Richmond and Florida Gulf Coast. So again, Richmond was able to beat Mount Olive this season. They lost to Marist, they lost to Charlotte, they lost to Bucknell, but they were able to beat Maine, Florida Tech, Ball State. They lost to La Tech at home. Oh, goodness. Lost to Belmont, lost to William and Mary. Okay, again, the difference in this basketball game, though, guys, simply put, is just Richmond's at home. That's the biggest difference. I think they are the better team. I do think they have the best scorer in this basketball game, and that's going to be Delani Hunt. Hunt's averaging 18.5 points for the Spiders this season, and he's going to be the best player on this court. For Florida Gulf Coast, again, Dalian Johnson is going to be their guy. He's averaging 13.5 points, and Keyshawn Kellman averages 11.5 as well. But simply put, again, I do just think the Spiders are the better basketball team, and on top of that, we get Richmond at home. Again, think about it, guys. We have a low-level A-10 team taking on a low-level A-Sun team. I do think the A-10, again, yeah, the bottom of the A-10 isn't very good, but think about it again. What do we get at the top of the A-10? I know, again, this isn't the best way of, explaining a pick, but think about it. You got St. Bonnie's, you got Rhode Island, you got Dayton, you got George Washington, VCU. Loyola Chicago sucks, not going to include them. But, right, you get some decent teams at the top of the A-10. And then, again, you think about the A-Sun. FGCU's at the bottom of this conference. This is a conference right now that's led by North Alabama. I mean, come on. Richmond, you play in the A-10. Don't lose a game at home to an A-Sun team in Florida Gulf Coast. I don't think it's a bye game for Richmond, but it kind of feels like it. So go win the basketball game by 2.5 points. Like, it should not be that hard. Give me Richmond. Let's go into our final best bet of the video. And yes, we are back fading the University of San Francisco. It's one of my favorite things to do, right? This is the nightcap. This is the 7 o'clock game. I was thinking, oh, maybe we look at, maybe Wazoo going to Portland. It's a really weird spot. But no, we got to stick to what brought us to the dance. USF versus Loyola Marymount. Give me Loyola Marymount plus 10.5. I'm very tempted, by the way, to take the Lions to straight up win the basketball game. I'm very tempted. If I'm feeling it at 7 o'clock tonight, maybe I'll bet it. Maybe I'll do it. If my little 9-leg parlay hits tonight, which, by the way, I'm just saying this should hit tonight. I'm just saying, think about it. We're going to go North Carolina money line. We're going TCU money line. We're going Miami, Florida money line. North Carolina State money line. Colorado money line. Army money line. Chargers money line. Bengals money line. Rams money line. Gets you plus 1,700. I mean, hey, 20 to win 360. Just throw it in there. Throw it on the slip for today. I'm just saying. If that all cashes, maybe I'll feel, I'll feel it tonight and bet on Loyola Marymount to straight up win. We're taking them to cover though, regardless. And again, if I had to, if I'm pressed on a pick, I would say USF wins the game. But guys, I wouldn't trust USF to cover against anybody. We fade this team all the time for good reason. They're not good. And they don't cover games usually. Again, the game's in San Francisco. Not like that does anything. Trust me, nobody's going to this basketball game. This is going to be played in an empty arena. And this is a great spot for Loyola Marymount to potentially steal a game or at least again cover. Guys, Loyola Marymount is on a huge 5-game winning streak, and their biggest win on that winning streak is the Nevada win, where they were able to beat the Wolfpack by 4 points, and they beat Prairie View by 1, they beat UCSB, they beat Southern, they beat North Alabama. Their losses this season, it was bad to start the year. They lose to Irvine, who's a very good team, they lose to St. Louis, they lose to North Dakota, they lose to Colorado State, but recently again, that 5-game winning streak Loyola Marymount has been on puts them now at 8-4 in the season. This is a team that is led by Will Johnston, Caleb Stone, Carwell, and Javon Porter, all those guys averaging about 14 points a game. For the Dons, we talk about this team. They are so reliant on Malik Thomas. If Malik Thomas doesn't have a big night, it is really difficult for USF to have a good night, okay? Recently, it has been Marcus Williams, and I should include Marcus Williams as well because it's really Thomas and Williams. But again, if both those guys aren't on, it's a problem. It's a problem. There are very rarely nights where Malik Thomas and Marcus Williams will both go off for, 17, 18 plus. But again, the Dons are just too unreliable. Again, I don't think they are a top 5 team in the West Coast Conference this season. I just don't think they are. I think Oregon State's better. I think St. Mary's is slightly better, even though they will suck. St. Mary's is better. Washington State's better. Gonzaga's better. Actually, can I really say Santa Clara is better than this team? I don't know if I can. We'll see. I want to believe that Santa Clara and Adama Alpha Ball is better than the Dons, but I don't know if I can really say that with with confidence right now. But USF just lost to Bradley on the road. I don't know. Give me Loyola Marymount in this basketball game, though. Again, we are opening West Coast Conference play, which I'm really excited for. Again, I'm going to try to get to as many Santa Clara games as I can this season. But again, I don't think San Francisco is the best. I don't think they are elite in the West Coast. I definitely don't think they're top 3. If you had to press me on a top 3 right now in the West Coast, I'd probably go, obviously, Zaga 1. I'd probably still go St. Mary's 2. No, I'd probably go, go St. Mary's 2, and then I'd probably go Oregon State 3. I think they're slightly better than Wazoo right now. They're probably better than Wazoo. Yeah, I go Oregon State 3. They were okay in Honolulu this week. So yeah, again, I don't think the Dons are very good. I think 10.5 points is too many for Loyola Marymount. I might consider playing the plus 425, but really, again, the real pick here is plus 10.5 for the LMU Loyola Marymount Lions. So folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best bets for college basketball here on December 28th. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.